Next is the Joy Business Advisory Series. In studio with me is Prosper Melome, who is partner, investment banker in Bridgewater Advisors Africa. Last Friday, we started a conversation on deal flow, which was pretty insightful, but we want to switch topics this afternoon and talk about mergers and acquisitions, key considerations for business. Thanks for joining us in studio. I don't know if you want to say something about the Black Stars. As you're all hoping
for the best.
You sound very
for some of us, for
apathetic.
We've been a bit slow on Black Stars. We hope for the best.
Right, fingers crossed. So I want us to start with the basic concept of what mergers and acquisitions are really, just for those watching to get some insight or understanding to what it is.
Okay, so businesses typically go through a life cycle. Every business, from startup, growth, and so on and so forth. For businesses growing, typically they would want to, for Ghanaian businesses, go through a natural process of growth, which can take a really long time. But M&As are pretty much like a fast-track system of growth. Now, saying M&As, we need to bear in mind there's a difference between mergers and then acquisitions.
Okay.
So for acquisitions, it's a business taking over another. A good example in our market is when Societe Generale took over SSB. Then we have mergers, which are two businesses coming together to form a different entity, but then operating as one. Classical example within the finance space, once again, is Omni-Basic.
Right. Okay. Just talk to us about the trends as well. Maybe, I don't know, in recent times or in 2023, if we are seeing such deals take place.
Right. So for traditional Ghanaian businesses, in exploring growth, M&A hasn't really been the option for most businesses.
Why is that?
There's a component of equity. That last week I mentioned that most of deal flows within our market is debt-driven. Ghanaian businesses are not too friendly to the equity conversation. But so most of the
because they have some fears?
Well, businesses are pretty much treated like personal babies or assets of most founders. And and if you look at the traditional setting of businesses within our setting and community, many businesses were founded on the basis of a means of survival. All right. So over time, founders kind of have this close attachment to businesses and don't feel quite comfortable getting in others. The other bit too is the bit of transparency.
Okay.
A lot of traditional businesses are not too transparent. So most of the mergers and acquisitions in our market have been driven by regulatory reforms. Typical or classic is the financial sector. We saw a number of institutions merging and others selling out. We saw First Atlantic take over Energy Bank, and then we saw that of Sahel Sahara, and then Omnibank forming Omni-Basic. So these are some of the drivers, but there's also the conversation of competition. We've seen that in the telcos, and I would say that for cross-border M&As, for example, we saw Vodafone come in to take over Ghana Telecom. We've also seen the merger of Airtel Tigo to survive in the marketplace.
Yeah. So at what point, because I think most Ghanaian businesses will shy away from that because of the misconceptions, but at what point should businesses consider mergers or acquisitions? And of what benefit is it for maybe, let's say, a struggle? Businesses have been talking about struggles lately.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a really good question, Dara. Mergers and acquisitions in its fine form gives opportunity for businesses to do more than they would ordinarily have done if they were to remain independent. Let me give a typical example. If you and I were two independent businesses, I had 100, you had 100, and then there was a market opportunity of 200. How will we take advantage of that opportunity if we remain independent?
Okay.
But if we came together to form a business worth 200, then we can seize that opportunity. Mergers and acquisitions can also be a mechanism of survival. All right, so a classic example of what I just said, the example I just took us through, it could be like for the banks, there was the question of stated capital. Right? When the regulator revised the stated capital, banks who couldn't meet the stated capital had to consider ways of coming together. So same as the marketplace, sometimes a giant competitor comes into the place and then sort of the small players in the marketplace begin to shake. But if they consider the option of mergers, they'll be able to form a more formidable force to survive.
I remember during the times last year where there was so much struggle for businesses. I mean, small businesses were being advised to, merge so that they can, withstand the economic shocks. What are the key considerations that businesses have to make before entering into a merger, for instance? What should they be looking at before they do that?
Right. So be it a merger or an acquisition, there's a form of marriage you can think about in this. That's ordinary marriage. Mm-hmm. So one, we say target. Finding the right target is really important, or finding a party to merge with is really, really important. Companies must invest time and resources in finding the right target. Now, when you find the right target, make sure to invest in the right professionals to carry out due diligence. In due diligence, there's what we call financial due diligence, and then there's also what we call legal due diligence. If the business is a technical or specialized field, then there may be the need for technical due diligence. Mm-hmm. Once due diligence is good to go, then the next consideration is valuations and pricing, because every transaction is done based on a price, and that price is justified by valuations. Once again, the right professionals must be engaged to carry out valuations. Then when businesses decide to come together, there are issues that may emerge after that joining. We call this post-acquisition integration issues. So in that scenario, once again, the right professionals should be considered in assisting businesses in integration.
And you need legal advice, I suppose?
Most definitely.
Okay. Talk to us next about the risks when it comes to mergers and acquisitions. Are there any risks to look out for?
Yes, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of conversation out there about mergers that have failed. So you can get, or businesses can get it wrong right from the wrong target. That is why I mentioned doing the right target search. If you merge with the wrong target, it wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. If you go in at the wrong price or valuation, you have issues. We also have the issues of weak due diligence. All right, you appraise a business based on its financial statements. If not done well, the value you thought the business had, the business doesn't have it. And that is a massive risk. Finally, if you get all the first bits right, but you fail to integrate well, then that's an issue. I mean, integration, we have issues to do with technology, culture, and a number of other things. There's also the risk to do with regulatory or compliance bits. Mm-hmm. There are some mergers or acquisitions that need regulatory approval. So that is also something to factor in there.
Okay, we've got 30 seconds left. I want you to speak with our audience, business owners who are watching 2024. If you've got any investment tip for them because you're an investment banker,
all right,
what would that be? Okay,
so I'll speak in view of mergers and acquisitions.
Okay.
I encourage Ghanaian businesses to look at each other quite well. Look at places where, you could achieve what we call synergies. There's a way two entities can make more revenue than they are making independently. There are opportunities to cut costs if you come together. Instead of having two different head offices, you could have just one. Instead of having two different...
That cuts cost, doesn't it?
Yeah, that cuts cost, and that increases your profits. So this is my advice to businesses in 2024 to consider mergers and acquisitions as an alternative to traditional growth.
Yeah, important advice there. Thank you so much, Prosper Melome, investment banker with Bridgewater Advisors Africa. It's good to have you in the studio. Hopefully we'll have you another time to talk about some of these things that are so important to us. I'll be watching the game as well tonight. Sure. Yeah, and that's The Marketplace, everyone. Thanks for watching.